Very good morning, my dear students of class 12th. Yes, please open page number 78 of your chapter, A Gorilla in the Guest Room, chapter number 7, page number 78. The last paragraph, and Pongo, of course, did not leave the guest room in the condition that he found it. And Pongo, of course, did not leave the guest room in which he was kept in the condition that he found it. But this was only to be expected. This was only to be expected. Although his manners were exemplary, he was only a baby and could not be expected automatically to assume civilized behavior without teaching him behavior, because he was living in the house. And that time he was living with his master, with the sailor. So the guest room, when he left it, bore numerous traces of his presence. As he was present in the room, there were so many numerous traces of his presence. On one wall, what happened? Listen. On one wall, for instance, was something that resembled a map of Japan. With his class, he made such type of traces as it was looking like Japan, the map of Japan. Drawn by one that resembled a map of Japan, drawn by one of the more inebriated, means heavily drunk, one of the more inebriated, heavily drunk, ancient mariners. This was nicely executed in scarlet, bright red, and was due to the fact that I had thought and Pongo might like some tinned raspberries. I had thought and Pongo might like some tinned raspberries. He had liked them, and his enthusiasm at this new addition to his diet has resulted in the map of Japan. There was also straw next to paraffin, fuel oil, paraffin. I know of no other commodity that manages to worm its way in a positively parasitic fashion, exploit fashion, into every nook and cranny before you are aware of it. For months after Pongo's short stay, in our guest room, we were apologizing to guests for the floor, which, in spite of hoovering, cleaning, looked like a 16th century ale house. Ale house means inn. INN. There was also the fact that the handle on the door drooped, bent, or rather a depressed angle, since Pongo, after receiving his meal, had attempted to follow me out of the room. Knowing that the handle by some magical means opened and closed the door, but not knowing exactly how to manipulate it. Anyhow, knowing the handle by some magical means, no one has taught him, but by magical means opened and closed, he learned, but not knowing exactly how to manipulate it, he had merely pulled it downwards with all his strength. as I tried unsuccessfully to bend the handle back into position again. I reflected that Npongo was only about 2 years old and that his strength would increase in proportion to his size. I knew that he is growing gradually. One of the things which particularly interested me about him was his different approach to a problem or a situation. If, for example, a baby chimpanzee is used to being brought out of its cage, on being reincarcerated, means imprisoned again, it will carry on like one of the more loquacious, talkative heroines in a Greek tragedy, tearing its hair, rolling with rage on the floor, scraping at the top of its voice, and drumming its heel on every available bit of woodwork. And Pongo was quite otherwise. He was different from others, although deploring. Deploring means here feel sorrow. He would accept the necessity of being locked up again in his cage. He would try his best to divert you from this course of action. But when he realized that it had become inevitable, which cannot be avoided, he would submit with good grace. His only protest would be a couple of sharp and faintly peevish, hateful screams as he saw you disappear, whereas the average chimpanzee of his age and with his background would have gone on having hysterics for a considerable length of time. Owing to his attractive appearance and disposition, temperament, his good manners, and his very well developed sense of humor, and Pongo was in a very short space of time the darling of the zoo. He became very lovable of the zoo. Every fine afternoon, he was brought out to the lawn in front of the a tree, hedge bushes, and there he would show off to his admirers, either lolling here, sitting lazily in the grass with a bored expression on his face, or with a wicked gleam, smile, right, in his eyes, working out how he could pose for his photograph to be taken by some earnest visitor and then rushed forward at the crucial moment, grasp the fortunate person's leg and push it from under him. A task that gave him immense amusement and generally resulted in the visitor sustaining a slipped disc and having an excellent picture of a completely empty section of the lawn. What happened after that, you will study in my next video. Thank you so much, students.